Recording in progress.
Yeah? Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. I'll call to order this meeting for the Desert Water Agency Board on October 1st, 2024 at 8 o'clock. Just some housekeeping things before we get started. For those who are participating virtually, if you could keep your microphone muted until you are ready to speak during public comment or otherwise. And for those of us that are in the room, if you could silence your devices so they won't interrupt us during the meeting. For discussion and questions, I will call on directors in the following roll call order: Director Grasha, Director Bloomer, Secretary Treasurer McKenna, Vice President Bowman, and President Ortega. And all votes will be conducted via roll call. And with that, I will ask Director Grasha to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Baca, may we have a roll call, please?
Director Grasha,
Present.
Director Bloomer,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer McKenna,
Present.
and Vice President Bowman's absence is noted. President Ortega.
Present. Thank you. The next is items for public comment on items that are not on today's agenda. Those would be items that are within the jurisdiction of the Desert Water Agency, but not necessarily on today's agenda. If you're a member of the public and would like to bring something to the attention of the board, you'll have 3 minutes to do that. We ask you to keep it to 3 minutes. And as provided in the Brown Act, the board is prohibited from acting on items that are not listed on today's agenda. Ms. Baca, have we received any public comment?
No comments have been received.
Okay. And is there anyone online or who's participating virtually that would like to make a public comment at this time? No one in the room? All right, we'll move to public comment on items listed on today's agenda. And similarly, we'll ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak at this time on a matter on today's agenda? Okay, we can move to the next item then. Thank you. Item 6, consent calendar items. And these are items that are listed on the consent calendar to be considered as routine and will be acted upon by one motion of the board without discussion. There will be no separate discussion on the items unless a board member requests a specific item to be discussed and removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Do any of my fellow board members have an item on today's consent calendar that they would like to speak about separately? No? Then I will look for a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented.
I move item 6, the consent calendar as presented.
Thank you. And I'll look for a second, please.
I'll second.
All right. We have a first from Director Grasha and a second from Director Bloomer. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Grasha,
Aye.
Director Bloomer,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer McKenna,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman's absence is noted, and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now we can move to our 2 action items for the day. 7A, request board action for customer appeal, Dean Marriott. And before we proceed, I would like council to refresh our memories for those of us in the boardroom, as well as those who may be attending a board meeting for the first time, on the process.
Yes, Mr. President, I think first you would hear from staff, and there would be an opportunity for the board to ask questions of staff. Then you would invite testimony or comment from the parties making the appeal, and then the board could discuss it and make a decision.
And would the board have the opportunity to ask the Marriotts if they ask the Marriotts question, or is it just discussion amongst the board members?
Oh, no, certainly an opportunity to ask them questions, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. All right. So we'll start with Mr. Tate.
Thank you, President Ortega and members of the board. On December 17th, 2019, the Board of Directors adopted Resolution Number 224, Policy on Discontinuation of Residential Water Service for Non-Payment, which became effective on February 1st, 2020. This resolution was in accordance with Senate Bill 998 that was adopted by the California Legislature in 2018, which imposes new and expanded customer protections regarding discontinuation of residential water service for non-payment and related matters. Section 5 of Resolution Number 1224 addresses the procedures to contest or appeal a bill, in particular Section 5.3, Appeal to the Board of Directors, states that any customers whose timely complaint or request for an investigation pursuant to Section 5 has resulted in an adverse determination by the agency may appeal the determination to the Board of Directors by filing a written notice of appeal with the agency secretary within 10 business days of the agency's mailing of its determination. Upon receiving the notice of appeal, the agency's secretary will set the matter to be heard at an upcoming board meeting and mail the customer a written notice of the time and place of the hearing at least 10 days before the meeting. The decision of the board shall be final. The appellant, Dean Marriott, is requesting relief from his July bill of $387.24. He is requesting relief due to the following. He states it is not possible that more than 85,000 gallons could have been used without anyone noticing. 2, that he was at the property from July 21st to August 6th, no leaks or puddles anywhere inside or outside. His property manager was on site multiple times in July and reported no leaks. He had guests at the property in July that also did not report leaks. The appeal summary and procedures. On July 31st, meter reading was collected via mobile collection device. On August 1st, the physical reread was performed due to high consumption. No contact made due to consumption returning to normal. On August 20th, the customer requested additional reread. On August 20th, an additional physical reread was performed. Customer was contacted with the update. Consumption is remaining to stay within normal range. August 22nd, the customer emailed myself. This email was used to file the dispute on the customer's behalf. On August 29th, Field Services Supervisor Garrett Nelson emails customer to arrange field tests to be performed on the meter. On September 3rd, the field test was performed on the meter, and the meter passed with 100% accuracy. On September 3rd, the dispute denial letter was mailed to the customer, mailed and emailed. On September 9th, the customer files the appeal. Staff has provided the board with the correspondence in this appeal, so that's in the packet. Also, the staff records of the account, so that's an attachment too. And then the appellant will be invited to speak, which we talked about earlier. And then Mike went over that after hearing the appellant, the board can decide whether or not to grant or deny the appeal. The fiscal impact, if the board decides to deny the appeal, there will be no fiscal impact. If the board decides to grant the appeal, the agency may credit the account up to $387.24. There's no legal review. Staff recommendation. Based on the rereads and meter field test at the property, staff recommends that the Board of Directors deny the appeal of Dean Marriott. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to
Thank you.
answer them.
Director Gracia, do you have any questions for Mr. Tate?
Is this meter a mechanical meter that you have to actually go out and read, or does it report in through the?
So this is it's a positive displacement meter. It's our Badger positive displacement meter. We have thousands of them in the system. The meter has a physical gauge on it, and it also has an ERT that sends out a remote signal. So currently, we drive around and pick up that signal.
Oh, okay, so you have to drive
So-
out there.
So originally, it was picked up via the ERT, and then it was mechanically or visually inspected. So you go in, there's dials that spin, and those were inspected for the reread to make sure the ERT reading matched the physical observation or the visual.
Thank you. That's it?
Okay. Director Bloomer.
No questions, thanks.
Hmm. Secretary Treasurer McKenna.
I've seen a few of these now, and I normally rely on the principle that the meter is mechanical. Its only source of energy is the water going through it, so the dials don't turn unless water is flowing. But this is a very large amount of water. Do we have any credible idea, as a suggestion from staff as to what might have happened here?
So the amount of water, 85,000 gallons, is equivalent to 114 units.
Right.
It is a significant amount of water, but we did verify that the meter is correct. So the water did pass through the meter.
Okay.
All right, I have no questions. So with the Marriotts, I'm maybe one or both of you, if I don't know how you're planning to do this, but I see that you're visually on screen with us. So would one of you like to speak?
Certainly, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes?
Oh, good. Dean Marriott here with Deborah. So I think that was a good summary. We just want to emphasize that either we were at the property or a guest were at the property. Other staff visited the property on a regular basis. No one observed any leaks or puddles or anything out of the ordinary. And it's roughly the equivalent of 3 swimming pools full of water. And we're just mystified as to how we can prove that wasn't going on. You talk about this meter, anything mechanical can have a problem, or there could be a data entry problem or some sort of a problem, but we actually had physical eyes on the property virtually every day of July, and there were no leaks or issues that we would have reported or dealt with. So we're trying to figure out how can we demonstrate to your satisfaction that that the problem was not on our side of the situation.
Okay, anything else, sir? No? All right. Director Gracia, do you have any questions for Mr. Marriott?
No questions, thank you.
All right. Director Bloomer?
I have one question for staff. Is the $387.24 the total amount of the July bill or the unusual amount?
It's the total. Usual
So we
and
could give a
unusual.
partial credit for if we thought that X amount was over the normal bill, we could give a partial credit for that if we wanted to.
Okay. Secretary Treasurer McKenna?
I have none, thanks.
Okay. And just to follow up on Director Bloomer's, so that when the total amount would include also the fixed cost, the fixed charge? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
If I may just make a brief comment, we did suggest in our petition that it would be preferable to have some sort of a partial credit. We don't expect free water for the month of July, but anything above what would be the normal usage for July is what we were requesting credit for.
Yes. Thank you. Understood. All right. We'll open it up for discussion. Do Any comments, Madam Director? Russia?
I don't have any comments. I've been through this. I understand the aggravation completely, more than anyone can know. I actually sold a house because of this problem, but having said that, I think the ratepayer can rest easy knowing that at least it's fixed now, where in my case, I never did figure out where that water was going. So,
Director Bloomer, any comments?
I would be in favor of looking at a partial credit based on last July's usage, but with because our rates are going to be higher this year as far as the volumetric rate. I don't know what that calculation would be offhand, but if anyone else was in favor of a partial credit, I would
Okay.
like that.
Secretary Treasurer McKenna?
I'm inclined to agree with that, and it's an unusual position for me. I've been the owner of a 3-unit building where 2 tenants had toilets running that didn't tell me, and I got a $900 water bill. So I've seen the other side of this problem too, but at least I understood what happened. In this case, I don't understand what happened. I mean, this is equivalent to running a hose or 2 hose outlets nonstop for almost a month. This is a lot of water. So I'd be inclined to give them partial credit as well for the excess, not the regular bill. And whatever that calculation is, I think it's $200 and something, perhaps. That would be, I'd be in favor of that too.
Okay. I have no further comments or questions, so I'll look for a motion.
President Ortega.
Yes.
I would just, last year, this account used 35 units of water. If you take last year, that would be 108 units of credit compared to what was used this year.
Right.
And based off of the rate that was in effect in July of 2024, at $2.44, that would be $263.52. But I would like to note that we will need to verify if that rate, the billing was on July 31st, 2024, and the way we implement our rates, we do not prorate them, so I'll just need to make sure to verify that wasn't the prior year's rate.
Yeah.
But the maximum amount it would be $263.52, potentially a little bit lower.
If the board decides that's the action they'd like us to take, then we'll leave it to staff to make that exact determination. I think we can rely on that. So I'll look for a motion.
I have one more question.
Yes.
What calculation do you use for garden hose flow? Once I had to figure it out, and I guessed it at 11 gallons a minute.
11 gallons a minute would be reasonable.
Yeah. And I did the math. It's about 4.5 days, I think. And that's not impossible. So that was my worry on the credit part of it, because it's easy to do.
See it somewhere.
I've had a similar leak at my house, and it made it about 5 feet, and then it just dissipated into the ground.
That's how anyway, I'm not opposed to what you're doing. I'm, in fact, but the problem is, people are going to be lined up at the podium wanting. So.
I'm still looking for a motion.
Good luck. I'll go whichever way you want, but if we have to have a hearing every meeting, it's going to be your fault.
This one strikes me as unusual. It does. I'm going to move that we give the customer a credit of $263.52.
I'd like to, we'll wait for a second and then we can discuss the motion. Go ahead.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a first from Secretary Treasurer McKenna and a second from Director Bloomer. I would request that the motion maker revise that to allow staff to make that determination about what the actual amount should be.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, all right. So I have a first from Secretary Treasurer McKenna, a second from Director Bloomer. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Director Bloomer,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer McKenna,
Aye.
and Vice President Bowman's absence is noted, and President Ortega.
I'm going to abstain.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. All right, we can move to 7B, which is request board action regarding claim filed. I'm sorry?
Oh, just thank you.
Thank you
Sorry.
very much.
You're welcome. All right.
Sorry.
Request board action regarding claim filed by Antoine Garabay, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, President Ortega, members of the board. So on September 4th, Mr. Garabet filed a claim for damages against the agency. He's claiming that work that the agency performed at his property on June 26th caused a low water pressure situation in which the claimant hired a plumber who charged him $250 to flush out a shower cartridge. On this day, on June 26th, the agency was at the property performing work. This was a street where we installed a replacement pipeline, and our crews were tying over the new service to the existing plumbing, which there is a backflow device. So they were tying the new plumbing to that backflow device. They did have to shut the water off. My understanding is this is an apartment type complex. There's multiple units, and it was one shower in one unit that had a problem that the plumber had to repair. So fiscal impact, if the claim is approved by the board, the agency agrees to cover the cost of the repairs in the amount of $250. If the claim is denied by the board, there will be no fiscal impact. Legal counsel has reviewed the report, and staff recommends that the board of directors deny the claim. Upon the board's decision, staff will notify the claimant. And at this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Start with Director Grasha. Do you have any questions for staff?
I don't have any questions, thanks.
Okay. Director Bloomer?
How long did the claimant say, did they wait until the work was done and the pressure came back to normal? I'm confused why they needed to call the plumber.
My understanding is the water shut off. We perform that tie-over work, which usually takes around 20 minutes. Then the person who lives in the apartment called the owner, who I believe is Mr. Garabet, claiming that there was problems with the shower. He then called a plumber who went to the site and determined that there was a clogged shower head on the site.
Okay. So
As
but our
far
work
as
didn't clog the shower head.
Yeah, as far as the time, how long between, I don't know that, but that was the sequence of events.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Secretary Treasurer McKenna?
I have no questions, thanks.
Okay. What is a shower cartridge?
I believe what he means is the filter that's in the shower heads that for the low flow, you'll see they're typically a blue type. It's a filter type device that they put in shower heads to limit the flow, and sometimes those will get clogged with calcium, causing it's a low flow situation, and that's what I believe is what the plumber cleaned out and to get the flow back to its original condition.
So would the work that was performed, including, is the work specifically about the backflow?
The work was to tie over the new service to the backflow device, that plumbing tie over. It wasn't really part of a backflow repair or so forth. To do that work, we had to shut the water off to the property to make that tie over. When pressure is dropped in a service line, if it's an older on-site plumbing, if it's a galvanized plumbing, there can be calcium in those pipes. When the pressure drops to zero, there can be some flaking off. It was one location only to the property that experienced this apparent problem.
Okay. So when you say service line, you're talking about what exactly? Are you talking, because I was confused between, was this a main replacement or service line replacement?
It was we replaced the entire main on that street with a brand new service. There was the old main with the old service. They had to tie over the new service with where the meter is over to the existing plumbing, which was a backflow device that was behind the old meter, and they made that tie over connection.
Okay. Okay. So basically, the service that was provided by the plumber sounds like unscrewing the shower head, cleaning out a filter, and then putting it back in. Is that reasonable?
I believe that's what he performed, or he or she performed on site. They may have done some evaluation on site and so forth, but ultimately it was a $250 bill.
Do we have the applicant in the room?
I do not see them in the room.
And they don't appear to be online, so guess we can't ask them questions. I'll move to comments from directors, starting with Director Grasha.
I took it to say, when they say cartridge was the valve, and I guess that's probably not correct, but, you know, that they had to take the valve out and had sand. So I was probably wrong about that. But as far as the price goes, it sounds reasonable to me. But I don't think it's our responsibility to clean people's shower heads, no matter what. And that's just the way I see it. So.
All right, thank you. Director Bloomer.
No, I agree with that, and that's all I have.
Okay. Secretary Treasurer McKenna.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I mean, we may have momentarily reduced, or for 20 minutes, reduced their pressure to zero and reinstated it. But if something flakes off, it's not really our fault. I don't see it as our responsibility.
Okay. And I would just add on to that, it's, I guess I would feel a little bit differently if this were a situation that had affected every shower or every home, or however, we don't know how many units are in this building. But the fact that it was only one seems a little odd to me. So with that, I will look for a motion.
Move staff recommendation to deny the claim.
Okay, I'll look for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. A first from Director Grasha and a second from Director Bloomer. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Grasha,
Aye.
Director Bloomer,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer McKenna,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman's absence is noted, and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Right, we can move to item 8, Secretary Treasurer's report.
These are financial highlights for August 2024, and full details are in the board packet, of course. The operating fund received $4.9 million in water sales revenue receipts, $135,000 in recycled water sales revenue receipts, and $256,000 in construction deposits. There is $25,000 included in the miscellaneous receipts from the City of Indio, excuse me, for the Urban and Multi-Benefit Drought Relief Grant from the Department of Water Resources. Please don't ask me what that is. We paid out $3,041,000 in accounts payable, including $466,000 to Southern California Edison. Year to date, water sales are 2% over budget, total revenues are 3% over budget, and total expenses are 20% under budget. Active potable water accounts are up 6 at 23,594. There were 18 water accounts turned off for non-payment in August. In an average month, there would be 21. The general fund received $676,000 in property taxes, $1.9 million in replenishment assessments. That's including money from ourselves to ourselves. We received $104,000 in power sales from Southern California Edison for the Whitewater Hydro. And we paid out $1.4 million in state water project charges for a year-to-date total of $5.4 million. In the wastewater fund, we received $111,000 in receipts and paid out zero in accounts payable. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Grasha, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
All right, Director Bloomer?
No questions.
All right. And I have no questions, so we can move to the next item, which is the General Manager's Report. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, President Ortega. So for the first item, I just want to again acknowledge, there we go, acknowledge the great accomplishment that the board did back on September 17th, appointing Finance Director Sines as a replacement for me when I retire. And there was a great photo there of Esther and President Ortega signing the contract. So nice photo. There's a photo of a great looking group of people there on our, this was an event that I participated back on September 21st. It was the Desert Healthcare District's Coachella Valley Environmental Health Summit. And I was a speaker on a panel along with Marion Champion and David Freeman. And I thought it went really well. Mary and I were able to complement each other, had a good discussion, and hopefully the participants who were in the crowd learned some information on the regarding our agencies. I believe, I know President Ortega was there and Director Bloomer was there to provide support, so I appreciate that. The next item is just an update on sites. So if you recall, last year, 6 environmental organizations petitioned a review of the Sites Authority's CEQA process and the authority's certification of the EIR for the Sites Reservoir Project. It went to the Yolo County Superior Court, which ruled in favor of the authority on all the issues. And then on September 20th, the 3rd District Court of Appeal released their opinion upholding the decision by the Superior Court of Yolo County. And this is just, again, a step that the authority is moving closer to building the this very much needed reservoir. So this is a very favorable decision by the courts. Our next item, I think I'll have our HR Director, Chris Hopping, talk about this.
Yes, we attended the Valley-wide Employment Expo, and our Facilities and Safety Officer, Eddie Gonzalez, went with me, as did Emmanuel Sarpong, our Operations Manager. And it was really well attended. There was, I think they said 88 different businesses were there recruiting. There were well over 1,000 people in attendance. And I had the Public Relations Department pull our numbers, and the day before the fair, when they published who was going to be there, and the day of the fair, our web traffic on our webpage went up way higher than it normally is. So we definitely got our name out there. We had some good giveaways, so I had a lot of people coming over to get those. And we had some really good applicants come in the following days, so I think it was very beneficial to us. And we had a lot of people sign up to get alerts when we post jobs too. So it was a good event.
All right, thank you. Next item is our landscaper workshop. So we will be holding a landscaper workshop on October 8th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. here in the boardroom. It will focus on giving landscape contractors knowledge about our programs, which hopefully they pass on to the customers. And the workshop will be focused on Incentive programs and rules, non-functional turf irrigation ban and HOAs in businesses, making conservation a California way of life, and then planning requirements through local cities and counties. So, our leak data report, see 28 leaks. We are seeing some older mains. The Palm Canyon main, 1938 main, it's 10-inch diameter main is starting to have some leaks here. That is a main that we are watching very closely. And then Camino Paracela will be replaced here fairly soon. And it's great to see again that Avenida Caballeros is no longer on this list. So, general managers meeting activities, just some highlights. On the 17th, we had our DWA CVWD Mission Springs Water District GM quarterly meeting. Again, that's a meeting we hold every quarter with the GMs. On the 26th, we had our executive committee meeting. And on the 27th, there was the Mission Springs Water District ribbon cutting event for their new plant, which was very well attended. And with that, be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Director Gracia, do you have any questions for?
No questions and no comments. Thank you.
Okay. Director Bloomer?
None for me.
Okay. Secretary Treasurer McKenna?
None for me, thanks.
I have a couple, actually. Regarding the hiring event, what positions are we currently looking to fill?
As of right now, we're working on, all the positions closed to applicants last Wednesday, but we have a water service worker, the safety training specialist, and account clerk operator. And the water service worker is due to promotion, and the account clerk operator is due to an upcoming promotion. So we promoted them at the job fair in advance because they knew I'd have a captive audience.
Mm-hmm. Good, thank you.
Mhm.
And can we go back to the leak report? Right, so it says here, I just want to, just looking for a couple clarifications. For the Camino Paracela, we have, it says planned replacement W 2025 and SW 2025. But then if you go down, it looks like it's actually the summer of 2026. Is that right? And that would be, there's 2 strips along Camino Paracela where that's happening, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's
So it's going to be done, there are 2 different sections that are going to be addressed in 2 different times, is I guess how I'm interpreting that.
I believe you're correct on that. Yep.
One section is near Demuth Park, and the other one is near North Palm Canyon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or South Palm Canyon. Yeah. I live around the corner from that. I'm pretty sure that's what South Palm Canyon. And then I think, could we scroll down to the map too? So when we say that that Palm Canyon Drive, the South Palm Canyon Drive and the Indian, those are pretty big stretches. When you say we're watching those, and they're pretty old lines, how does that translate into action when you say we're watching them?
We'll watch the number of leaks that we have on those mains. If they start to escalate, we can do an emergency pipeline replacement project. These are in 2 very high-traveled streets, which require a lot of planning, and we, in order to ensure that we do a proper design on that, there's a lot that goes into that type of a design. And because of the history of these mains and the number of leaks, they tend to, it's interesting, they'll have a moment where they'll have several leaks, and then they won't leak for several years, and then it'll leak for a little bit, and then it won't. So This is South Palm Canyon hasn't had as many leaks. It's starting to leak again. Potentially, we get this change in weather, which can cause that. But we will just keep tracking those to ensure that it's not spreading into a more dire situation where we'll have to go in and expedite the replacement of it. So.
If you made that determination, how long would it take to get, I mean, you called it an emergency, so I'm not sure if an emergency happens in 3 months or a year or.
If there's a large enough section of Maine that typically we'll put a band on, if that just keeps spreading and it comes to a point where we can put 3 or 4 bands on and it's just the pipe has a area where we just can't we can't put any more bands on. At that point, we'll look to see where we can replace that section of main, get a new piece of pipe in the ground, tie it over, and then work on a design that would complete the street. We've done that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Assistant General Manager, also the other aspect is the city's pavement program, so we work around that too. So, and I know that area has been paved. Yeah.
Secretary Treasurer McKenna, you have a question.
Yeah, maybe stating the obvious, but shouldn't we put these on the early program, for the next year or two to get replacement mains in there?
For Palm Canyon.
Palm Canyon and
Yeah, I will have to look and see where that is ranked on our ranking of mains. I can tell you that the age and the size is ranks it higher. Will rank it higher than a main that is maybe in the 50s, 1950s. And not as large. So that gives it a higher ranking in those categories. But as far as total leagues, I don't have that information right now. But
Yeah, I mean, you're basically going where I was going. I mean, I'm on those roads 4 times a day. I see it all the time, and maybe it's just because I see it and it's obvious, but they are also very important thoroughfares through this town and very visible. So yeah, I would support looking further at those, and maybe they should be moved up further in the calendar if that makes sense. That's again for staff to determine and make a recommendation to us, but it's a suggestion, I think, from some of us on this board.
yeah, thank you. We'll note that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think that's it for me. So we can move to item 10, which is director's reports on meetings and events intended on the behalf of the agency. Director Gracia.
Yeah, I had a couple, 4 or 5 of them, it looks like. On September 18th, I attended the Palm Springs Chamber of Commerce Business Expo. And on the 19th, the State Water Contractors Board meeting. And on the 20th, the strategic planning meeting for Desert Water Agency. And then on the 24th was the Coachella Valley Water District Board meeting. They talked about their cost of service and rate study report on the domestic fund. And they also had a agenda item for the Catino project. And the probably 40-minute discussion that ensued was filled with little tidbits of information in regard to water conservation and the pitfalls of what's going on out there in terms of they're going to have 2 water systems at Catino. One will be the drinking water for indoors, swimming pool, and fountains. And then they're an entirely separate system, which will be all reclaimed water for front and backyards and throughout the development's landscaping area. And to operate that second system was going to, they're establishing an entirely separate water agency that will be managed by Catino. And we'll have a number of employees. I guess they're going to have somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 houses out there. So it was quite detailed conversation, and I thought it was interesting, the amount of effort they're putting into saving water out there. And then on the 26th, the aqua regulated drinking water contaminants in California Zoom discussion seemed to have been very well attended. One of the attorneys led the discussion and was about new regulations for all the different contaminants that the state is now regulating. So it's very interesting. And that's it for meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bloomer.
Okay, on September 18th, I also attended the Taste of Palm Springs Business Expo. On September 19th, I had my meeting with the strategic planning company. On 9/21, this isn't compensable, but I attended the Healthy Desert, Healthy You Environmental Summit by Desert Healthcare District. And General Manager Johnson did a great job on the panel, and there were some other interesting panels there as well. And on September 26th, we had a mediation prep meeting. On September 27th, we had the Mission Springs Water District Reclamation Plant ribbon cutting. And then yesterday, on September 30th, a mediation meeting. And that's it.
Thank you. Secretary Treasurer McKenna?
I attended the Taste of Palm Springs event. Excellent. We had a booth there. There was a lot of public interest in us, and I got buttonholed by a few customers. So it was good for me. On the 27th, I was at the Nancy Wright Reclamation Facility ribbon cutting, and a very well-organized event by Mission Springs, and congratulate them again on the great work they're doing, putting together that plant with virtually no customer money, all of it grant aided. So great work there. And that's it for me.
Thank you. So on Saturday the 21st, September 21st, I also attended the Desert Healthcare District's Environmental Health Summit, a non-compensable event. And I was surprised shouldn't say surprised. I was pleased to see the large attendance at the two events that I sat where I was present. And then on the 24th, the strategic planning call with our consultant. And then on the 27th, the Mission Springs Water District ribbon cutting, which has been mentioned a few times already. And that was it. So let's see. I guess we can close this part of the public session, we have comments. Sorry. Turn the page here. Director's comments and requests. So we'll start with Director Grasha.
I have one comment/request. The tour that we've got coming up for Snow Creek, I wondered if it's possible, if there's room, if you're filling up to it, maybe we could invite the council candidates for Palm Springs. I think that might be a nice thing to see. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Director Bloomer?
No comments or requests, thanks.
Secretary Treasurer McKenna?
I'm trying to remember where I saw it, but the city of Palm Springs is finally looking into the question of the turf around City Hall, and have discovered that, in fact, it's a recent addition, that the original landscape was desert landscaping. They're going to go back to that. And as a footnote, they mentioned that they would be seeking some assistance from us. And I would like to say, don't try it. You've wasted $10,000 a year on potable water for decades. let's not come to us and ask our ratepayers to put you back to desert landscaping when you should have been there all along. Anyway, that's my opinion. That's this director's opinion. I was also reading some state policy on sustainability recently, and I realized that our general plan that we recently passed does not accord with state policy. And I wonder if our general counsel will look into whether or not there are sanctions we may be fit with by proceeding with something that we are a creature of the state after all. We should align ourselves with state policy, and we have not. So I'd like them to look into that. That's it for me.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that about the City Hall landscaping. I mean, that is actually an historic landscape, or it was, until it was turned into a lawn by Garrett Ekbo, who is a mid-century modern landscape architect in his firm out of Los Angeles that designed that. So very happy to see that there's a move within the city to return it to something that resembles that, and there's been a lot of support from the historic preservation community here, and certainly I will be happy to see that piece of turf gone, replaced with something a little bit more interesting. I'm not sure I'm going to comment on whether or not we should be supporting that financially, but that's for another day and see how that goes. Other than that, I don't have any comments or requests. I see that it's 10 minutes of 9, so if the board could reconvene in the conference room at 9 o'clock for closed session, that would be great. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
There we go. All right, we're back from closed session. I can report that we had no reportable action taken while we were in closed session, and with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.